My name is Joe Armstrong. And if you're looking at your life right now thinking, I'm stuck, I get it. It feels like you're taking steps, trying to change, doing the work, yet reality keeps snapping you back into the same old storyline. This is where an idea comes in that sounds strange to some people, but explains a lot in real life. Reality branches. Think of reality not as one single road, but as a network of roads. You're not creating the world from scratch every morning. You're selecting a line, one branch, through the state you live in, through who you are on the inside, through what feels normal to you. And each branch has its own logic of events. On one branch, you're constantly anxious about money, and the same problems keep showing up. On another branch, you're calmer, more grounded, and money starts moving through opportunities you used to not even notice. That's not magic. That's psychology and behavior, just described with different words. Neville Goddard called these states. You are always in a state, and a state is like a room. In one room, you're the person who waits for proof and fears it won't work out. In another room, you're the person for whom the result is already internally normal. And here's the key. Your outer world doesn't shift because of what you want. It shifts because of what you accept as your inner normal, what you assume is true about you. The most common mistake is trying to jump to a new branch without changing the inner man, wanting a new life, but still confirming the old one every day, constant checking, doubt, the habit of anxiety, overreacting to small setbacks, living in what if it doesn't happen, because your branch is held together by your automatic reactions, by what you instinctively treat as reality. You can say the right affirmations, but if you live internally like a man of lack, you stay on the branch of lack. So the real starting point isn't how do I get it? It's who am I when it's already mine? Because the branch isn't an event. The branch is identity. And when identity changes, everything changes. What you notice, what you choose, what you allow, what you tolerate, how you speak, how you decide under pressure. That's how the line of events shifts. Pick one desire, not 10, one. Because reality branches isn't a cute concept you think about. It's a way to aim your life. And you can't aim if you're spinning in 10 directions at once. Most people in the US don't fail because they want the wrong things. They fail because they want vague things. More money, a better life, a good relationship, confidence. That's not a destination, that's a mood. If you want to move to a different branch, you need a clear end, an outcome that would be true only on the branch you want. Neville would call it the end, the fulfilled fact. So get specific. Not with desperate details, but with a clean final reality. Instead of, I want more money, it becomes, I consistently bring in X dollars per month. Instead of, I want a better job, it becomes, I'm hired in a role I respect with X salary and I feel secure. Instead of, I want love, it becomes, I'm in a relationship where I'm chosen, respected, and it feels calm. Instead of, I want confidence, it becomes, I show up steady, I speak clearly, and I don't chase validation. Now here's the part people mess up. They make the end about the process. They say, I want to get a client. I want to go viral. I want her to text me. That's not the end. That's a sign. That's one possible bridge. The end is the identity level result. Stable income, consistent demand, a committed relationship, a disciplined body, a calm mind. Because if you target a single sign, you get trapped. You start watching for it. You start begging for it. You start checking every day. And checking is a state. Checking is the state of not having it yet. So your job is to define the branch in one sentence that feels like a fact. Write it down like a headline. Simple, real, no fluff. Then ask yourself one honest question. If this were already true, what would be normal about my life? Not the fantasy day. The normal day. Because that normal day is the coordinates of the branch you're trying to live on. Now we build the coordinates. Because a branch of reality isn't something you chase, it's something you inhabit, and you inhabit it by making the end feel normal. Neville's whole method is simple. You don't try to get the thing. You become the version of you who already has it, not in a fake delusional way, in a psychological way. You move your inner baseline. So take the one sentence end you wrote and translate it into a normal moment. Not a highlight reel, not a fantasy montage, a normal moment that would only happen if your desire were already done. If it's money, it's you paying rent or your mortgage without that tight feeling in your chest and still having cushion. If it's a job, it's you checking your calendar and seeing meetings for the role you already have. If it's a relationship, It's you getting a simple message like drive safe, love you, and it feels normal, not shocking. If it's your body, it's you looking in the mirror after a shower and feeling calm certainty. Yeah, this is me now. This matters because most people try to manifest with intensity. They think the more emotion, the more power. But intensity is usually just desperation, dressed up as motivation. Neville didn't teach intensity, he taught acceptance. The feeling you're looking for isn't hype. It's the quiet sense of course. That's why people struggle. They try to imagine the end while still internally living in the old branch. They imagine the money, then immediately feel the lack. They imagine the relationship, then immediately feel the fear. They imagine the success, then immediately feel the doubt. So instead of forcing a big scene, you choose one small scene that feels believable and repeatable, something your mind can accept. And then you practice that acceptance every day until it becomes your new normal. Because here's the truth. The branch shifts when your reactions shift. When your baseline shifts, you stop reacting like the old version of you. You stop making scarcity decisions. You stop chasing. You stop sabotaging. You stop tolerating less. And that changes the entire chain of events without you having to push reality. You don't need 1,000 techniques. You need one normal scene and a new inner baseline. Here's the method Neville used to lock the new branch in. SATS, state akin to sleep. And no, this isn't mysticism, it's timing. There's a window where your mind is relaxed, your body is heavy, and your critical, arguing brain is quiet. That's the moment your subconscious is most impressionable. That's why Neville emphasized the drowsy state, right before sleep, and sometimes right after waking up. During the day, your mind is loud, it debates everything, it fights you, it brings up bills, memories, what if, logic, embarrassment. But in SATs, the resistance drops. You're not trying to win an argument with yourself. You're slipping past the argument. So here's how you do it. Clean and simple. You get in bed, you turn the world down. You relax your body, shoulders, jaw, stomach. You slow your breathing until you feel that drifting sensation. Then you run your short scene. Not a long movie, not a complicated story. A 5 to 10 second loop that implies the wish is already fulfilled. And you repeat it gently, like you're remembering something that already happened. The goal is not to visualize perfectly. The goal is to accept it as real. Neville said, the subconscious doesn't care about facts. It cares about what you feel as true. That's why feeling is the secret. So when you loop the scene, you're not trying to force details. You're entering the mood of the fulfilled desire, the calm certainty, the normalness, the sense of course. A SATs done right feels quiet. You're not straining. You're not forcing emotion. You're not trying to convince yourself. You're letting your body sink into the assumption. Then you stop. You don't grind it like a workout. You reach the point where it feels done, and you fall asleep in that state. Neville called that the Sabbath inner rest, the sense that it's finished. Most people mess this up by turning SATS into a performance. They tense up, they try too hard, they chase goosebumps, and they end up feeling more anxious than before. If you finish SATs and you feel pressure, you didn't enter the end. You entered effort. Keep it light, keep it short, keep it repeatable. Because the branch doesn't change from one heroic session. It changes from a new assumption repeated until it becomes your identity. To make this work, you need the right scene. And most people choose the wrong kind. They pick something dramatic, something far away, something that feels like a fantasy. Then they wonder why their mind won't accept it. If the scene doesn't feel believable to your nervous system, it won't imprint. It will just feel like wishing. Neville's rule is simple. Choose a short imaginal act that would only be true if your desire were already fulfilled. One scene, one implication, 5 to 10 seconds. That's it. Not a whole movie, not a montage. A single moment that locks the end in as a fact. So think in terms of confirmation, not process. Don't imagine trying, imagine done. If your goal is a new job, don't imagine sending resumes. Imagine seeing the welcome email, signing the offer, or hearing a friend say, "Congrats, you got it." If your goal is more money, don't imagine hustling. Imagine calmly checking your balance and feeling zero stress, or paying your bills and still having cushion. If your goal is a relationship, don't imagine chasing texts. Imagine a normal moment of stability, holding hands on the couch, hearing, "I'm proud of you," seeing their name pop up with a message that implies commitment. The best scenes have two qualities. They feel normal, and they carry a clear implication. Normal means it's not fireworks. It's not a movie trailer. It's something you could realistically experience. Implication means the scene makes it impossible for the desire to still be in the future. The scene proves it's already true. And here's a powerful shortcut. Use your senses lightly. You don't need perfect visuals. You can feel a handshake, the weight of your phone, the warmth of a hug, the texture of a steering wheel, the sound of a voice saying one line that seals the reality. One line is often enough. I'm so proud of you. Welcome to the team. We're good. We're secure. You really did it. Pick a line that would only be said after the wish is fulfilled. Then you loop that scene gently in sats until the feeling lands. Calm, certainty, normal, not excitement, acceptance. Because acceptance is what changes branches. When you accept the end as natural, your reactions start matching the new reality, and the chain of events starts reorganizing around you. Most people think manifestation is about intensity. They try to feel super excited, super motivated, super high vibration, and they mistake emotional spikes for power. But Neville's whole point was the opposite. The feeling that manifests isn't hype. It's acceptance. It's the quiet inner knowing that it's already done. That's why the best marker of a successful imaginal act is not butterflies in your stomach. It's peace. It's the sense that you can stop thinking about it. Neville called that the Sabbath, the inner rest. When you reach Sabbath, you're no longer pushing. You're no longer begging. You're no longer trying to force reality to change. You're living from the assumption that it already has. So when you do sats, don't chase fireworks. Chase normal. Ask yourself, what would it feel like if this were simply true? Not, how would I celebrate, but how would I breathe? Because in the fulfilled reality, you're not desperate. You're not checking. You're not negotiating. You're just steady. This is also why people fail when they keep looking for proof. The moment you start scanning your life like, is it here yet? You've moved into the state of not having. You've left the end. You've returned to waiting. And waiting is a state that keeps reproducing more waiting. So train one specific feeling, inner stability. That's the feeling of being provided for, being chosen, being secure, being respected. It's not loud, it's grounded. It's the feeling of, I'm good, and you can practice it even if your current reality doesn't match yet, because you're not practicing facts, you're practicing identity. Here's a simple way to check if you did it right. After your scene, can you let it go for a while without needing reassurance? Can you go back to your day without obsessing? If yes, you touched Sabbath. If no, you're still gripping, and gripping is just fear. The goal is to become the version of you who naturally lives on that branch. That version doesn't need constant signs. He doesn't need to refresh his phone. He doesn't need to convince himself every hour. He knows. He acts like it's handled. He moves through life with less noise. That's feeling is the secret. Not excitement, not hype. The calm certainty that makes your desire feel like a fact. If you want to stay on the new branch, you need a mental diet. That's Neville's term, and it's brutally practical. A mental diet is simply controlling what you repeatedly accept as true in your mind, because whatever you rehearse becomes your state, and your state becomes your life. Most people do sats at night, feel good for 5 minutes, then spend the entire next day feeding the old branch. They wake up and immediately check their phone. They check their bank balance. They check social media. They replay the same fears. They tell the same story. Nothing's changing. And every time they repeat that story, they step right back into the state that created their current reality. So here's what a real mental diet looks like. You stop entertaining scenes that contradict your end, not fighting them, not debating them, not trying to solve them, just not feeding them, because the old branch survives on attention. You keep it alive by rehearsing it. When a negative thought shows up, you don't panic. You label it. Old branch. That's it. Then you redirect. You return to your end. One sentence, one feeling, one quick inner image. You don't need a 20-minute meditation in the middle of a workday. You need a 2-second correction that keeps you from spiraling. This is the daily practice. You catch yourself before you react, because reactions are what lock you into a branch. If you react like the old version of you, you're living on the old line. If you respond like the new version of you, you're reinforcing the new line. So watch your automatic habits. Complaining is a habit. Checking is a habit. Talking yourself out of things is a habit. Doom scrolling is a habit. Over-explaining is a habit. And these habits aren't just thoughts. They're identity signals. They're you telling your subconscious, this is who we are. Replace them with a cleaner loop. When you catch yourself checking for proof, stop. Breathe once. Return to one line. It's done. or I'm supported, or this is normal for me. Then move forward and do something productive. The point is not to sit there repeating phrases all day. The point is to stop contradicting yourself. And here's the strongest mental diet rule. Don't rehearse failure. Don't rehearse rejection. Don't rehearse loss. If you need to plan, plan. But don't emotionally live in the worst case scenario, because your subconscious doesn't hear, I'm just thinking. It hears, this is real. A mental diet is how you keep your inner world loyal to your chosen end. And loyalty is what some point, if you're doing this right, life starts moving. Not in a fairy tale way. In a very normal way that only looks mystical after you connect the dots. Neville called this the bridge of incidents. It's the sequence of events that carries you from your current branch to the fulfilled branch without you having to force it. This is where people mess it up again. They try to control the bridge. They demand a specific path. They say, it has to happen like this. This person must text me. This client must pay me. This exact job must hire me. And then when it doesn't happen in that exact form, they assume it failed. But the bridge is rarely straight. It's usually indirect. It comes through doors you didn't even know existed. Your job is not to micromanage how. Your job is to recognize doors and walk through them like it's normal, because on the fulfilled branch, it is normal. Doors show up as ideas, invitations, opportunities, conversations, timing, coincidences that feel a little too perfect, not as fireworks, as openings. So when something opens, don't overthink it. Don't wait for a second sign. Don't sabotage it with fear. Take the call, send the message, apply for the role, show up to the meeting, post the content, ask for the rate, follow up. The bridge is built out of movement. Here's a mindset that keeps you aligned. The bridge may look messy, but it's still the bridge. Sometimes it starts with something that feels like a setback, a rejection, a delay, an uncomfortable conversation, a job you lose. And then a week later, you realize it was the exact push you needed to leave the old branch. Neville was clear. You don't judge the middle. You stay loyal to the end. This is why living in the end is so powerful. When you're in the state of, it's done, you don't interpret every bump as failure. You interpret it as a reroute. You stay calm. You keep moving. You don't collapse into old reactions. And here's a practical rule. Separate signs from doors. Signs are passive. Doors require action. Stop hunting for signs. Start walking through doors. If you're waiting for proof before you move, you're still living on the old branch where life has to convince you. On the new branch, you move like a man who already knows the outcome is handled. That's how the bridge carries you. Not through magic. Through a chain of normal events, met by a different version of you, aches the branch solid.